guy got called out for racism. Video by Acheeto. As you can hear from my voice, I am still getting my voice back, but the show must go on. Today, we will be reacting to a white, anti-woke, conservative YouTuber. He makes videos about drama, mostly, right? So he has this video here, holy shit, Hassan just nuked himself. We're going to be responding to this video where he's essentially making a video in response to a video that Antonio Speaks made. We all know and love Antonio over here, right? The video in question, he's going to be talking about black fatigue. He's going to try and defend why he makes videos about black fatigue. Right? As we can see here, he made a video, let's see here, about a month ago. Black fatigue just got a lot worse. 94,000 views. It's his most popular video since that. He hasn't made a single video that has been able to get even close to that. And that is going to get into why it is these people are motivated to make these videos. But we all know that when white people talk about black fatigue, it's racist. And we're going to explain why it is racist in this video. You're going to truly understand that. He's going to attempt to refute Antonio's video. We're going to dismantle his arguments. Almost 600,000 subscribers, but yeah, man, looks like he fell off sometime in the past. He's not pulling views like that anymore, as is the natural life cycle of all grifters, right? So anyway, let's go ahead and listen to this video and respond to it.
All right, guys. So as you've probably heard, the phrase black fatigue has been used a lot recently, and that's in tandem with the word fatigue being used a lot to describe people's frustration with repeat patterns of behavior coming from certain groups that are being documented on social media. And so I think black fatigue being sort of the phrase that started this all has led to obviously a large conversation opening up about the current state of racial affairs and stuff like that. And a lot of people agree that black fatigue is real and there are reasons for it, but a lot of people disagree with black fatigue being real and the fact that people are even saying black fatigue is a bigger problem than the so-called issues with black people. So I don't know. But anyway, I saw this video.
Okay. First, let us go ahead and define black fatigue, because he's asking, some people are debating black fatigue is real. Is it not real? First, let's actually look at the definition of black fatigue and who invented it. Black fatigue is a term coined by diversity, equity, and inclusion expert Mary Frances Winters in her 2020 book, Black Fatigue, How Racism Erodes the Mind, Body, and Spirit. It refers to the chronic and cumulative exhaustion experienced by black people from the repeated exposure to racism. So, for example, the fact that I have to define black fatigue for the sake of this video is in of itself fatiguing, because here we have yet again another white person taking something that is culturally black, bastardizing it, manipulating it, using it in a way to actually turn it into a racist dog whistle against black people. How sad is that? We've had this term now for 5 years. White people think they invented it last week and are using it to describe their exhaustion of black people. It's so funny, right? Ironic. Anyway, that's the real definition of black fatigue. So, of course, black fatigue is real, and any black person can tell you that. But the way he's using the term black fatigue, the way how white people and racists use a term, those two not always being one and the same, but oftentimes are, they are essentially saying they're tired of black people. In particular, they're tired of the injustices that their group experiences at the hands of black people. So in particular, we see this term being used mostly around things like violence, right? Let's take, for example, the young lady, the Ukrainian immigrant who was murdered tragically by that schizophrenic black man on a train. I believe that was in North Carolina, right? We saw an uptick in the use of the term black fatigue. And that's really the basis on which they justify using the term, right? Black people are a plague on white people. You see, it wouldn't make sense for them to be using the term black fatigue if they're not fatigued of black people, if they're not actually exhausted, which means they need to be dealing with them, right? And this is what will reveal that the way they're using this term is in fact racist and unjustified, at least in the way that they're trying to justify the use of this term. So let's continue.
Video called White Exhaustion, and in this video, one of my videos was featured, I guess, to bring up a point how black fatigue is being used a lot. And so yeah, this guy's name is Antonio Speaks. I thought we would take a look at this video called White Exhaustion because I guess he's fighting fire with fire, saying, oh, you have black fatigue, well I have white fatigue. So anyway, let's take a look at this, and hopefully I will get to respond to some of his arguments. I did pre-watch this, and he does end up making some claims that I plan on debunking with facts and logic, okay, bringing out the statistics here. So let's get into it. If you guys enjoy.
Oh, you don't want to do that, sir, because that is where you will be defeated.
This video, please be sure to leave a like. We're gonna need it on a video like this, you know. I mean, this is gonna be a controversial one. We're going into battle right now, so I need all the help I can get. Show some love, and yeah, let's get into it.
These teens are charged with conspiracy to commit a mass Columbine-style school shooting.
Okay, so I'm gonna skip ahead because the first section of this video is him cherry-picking headlines in order to, you know, sort of say that white people are violent when, unfortunately, we have to look at not the raw numbers, but the per capita, the likelihood of a person from a certain race doing certain crimes. And if you look at the obviously very commonly referenced 1350 statistic that says despite making up 13% of the population, black people are responsible for 50% of violent crimes. The issue is that there is a obvious discrepancy between the size of the group and the likelihood for them to commit violent crime, right? And so even if you...
Okay, so he wants to make the per capita argument here. We're going to get to that in a second, but notice how immediately the video he's reacting to is 8 minutes long. Notice how immediately, as soon as he sees instances of white people being evil, right? White people shooting up innocent children in schools, he's like, oh, let's go ahead and skip this. Let's skip this. He's cherry picking. Well, sir, he's not cherry picking, actually. The data shows us that when it comes to mass shootings involving victims that are confined to schools K through 12, over 80% of the people who commit the shootings are white. This is just a fact. Now, white people make up 60% of the population, yet you commit 80% of the school shootings that result in the deaths of 4 or more people. That is the specific demographic. But with that statistic alone, I think we now have a justification for the idea of white exhaustion or white fatigue. Why is it, Acheeto, if you ever respond to this video, why is it that white young men are responsible for over 80% of mass shootings where the victims are children? Well, what is the justification for that? What is going on with your people, with your community? I would love for you to explain that. See, I can explain gang violence. Can you explain to me why you have so many young white boys and young white men shooting up schools and killing children? I wonder.
Say white people commit more crime than black people, it's like, well, yeah, because there's more white people in the US. The issue is the likelihood. You are more likely to be the victim of violent crime by a black person, right? And so I think when...
That's false. If you're white, statistically, you're more likely to be the victim of a violent crime by a white person. In fact, according to the statistics that the government has for us, 80% of white victims at the hands of violent crimes and murder are victimized by white men. So you're already lying. You're already wrong. And so do you see why now this whole black fatigue shtick that you got is racist? Because if the argument is we have black fatigue because black people are hurting us, black people are killing us, well then you should have 4 times or 5 times the white fatigue for your own men, for your own people. I wonder if you'll respond to this video.
People talk about black fatigue. The reason they have an issue is that because they are a minority and they do a lot of this, it shows that there's a very clear imbalance and a pattern of behavior that is, you know, worth criticizing, obviously.
Grade teacher got a tip.
But anyway, not to take away from this is terrible. I mean, these fucking idiots just said they were planning to shoot up their school. I mean, that's just disgusting and evil. Complete failure from the parents, the community, and from, obviously, the kids themselves. So, anyway.
The only way we're going to make America a better country for all of us to live in is if we address the root causes of these problems. America doesn't have a race problem. It has a problem race.
So I can skip that. Okay, so I skipped ahead there. But the only way we're going to make America better is if we get to the root cause of the problems. Well, what are the problems? I would say violence is a problem. I would say child abuse is a problem. Child exploitation is a problem. Now, the root cause of these problems would not be the actual race, right? Because I don't think being born a certain race inherently makes you more likely to, you know, be a child sex predator, right? I don't think that's how that works. If anything, the only thing that
It's funny you bring that up. Did you know that the grand majority, over 70% of the people convicted of crimes in relation to the production, distribution, and consumption of child pornography, for instance, are white men? How do you feel about that? Less than 6% of those criminals are black. So very underrepresented. What does that say about your people? What does that say about your culture, I wonder? Or is white fatigue justified yet? You're talking about per capita, you're talking about representation. Well, now you've seen that white men are overrepresented when it comes to killing children in schools, right? And the production, distribution, and consumption of child pornography. Is white exhaustion, has it been justified yet? I'm still waiting to hear black fatigue be justified. The racist black fatigue, that is.
Actually makes you more inherently likely to do that is becoming a Minecraft YouTuber. But getting into what he's actually saying here, if he's saying that it's an intrinsic thing and getting to the bottom of it means highlighting a certain race, then by his own logic, the problem would be literally black people.
So let's start.
No, that's your logic, which is why you use the term black fatigue. When you say black fatigue, you're literally broad brushing, generalizing all black people. You're saying that we're tired of black people. That's literally what black fatigue would imply with the way that you're using it. See, if you wanted to be more precise in your language, you would say something like gang violence fatigue. But here's the thing, it wouldn't make sense for you to say that. Why? Because white people are, for the most part, completely unaffected by black gang violence. So what exactly is exhausting you if the problem at hand, which I acknowledge, right, there is a problem of black gang violence, you know, where the victims are black. If that's the case, what exactly is so fatiguing for you? If violence is the issue and over 80% of white murder victims are victimized by white men, why are you not talking about white fatigue? It seems like that is a much more pressing issue for your community, no?
On September 10th. As we all know by now, Charlie Kirk got put on the t-shirt by Tyler Robinson.
Wait, hold on a second.
Start on just the past 3 weeks, we have had 7 mass shootings.
Okay, so he said we had 7 mass shootings.
So let's start on September 10th. As we all
And we're starting with a thing that isn't even a mass shooting. So we've had all these mass shootings recently. My favorite mass shooting was the Charlie Kirk one. This was not a mass shooting, it was an assassination. Like, one person got shot in the neck. That's not a mass shooting. This is not good. This is not a great start, okay? I think in order for it to be mass, it has to be more than one.
Y'all know by now, Charlie Kirk got put on a t-shirt by Tyler Robinson. That same day, 16-year-old Desmond Holly shot up a Colorado school, killing 2 people and injuring more. September 17th, Matthew Ruth, he killed 3 police officers and injured 2 in Pennsylvania.
Is this still considered a mass shooting though? Like, let's see.
That's so funny. He just said for something to be considered a mass shooting, it has to be more than one victim, right? Fair enough. He then hears 2 incidents where multiple people are shot by white individuals. And he's like, well, we even call this a mass shooting, you know? It's like, what?
Okay, inside the Pennsylvania ambush that killed 3 officers, wounded 2 others. Detective Sergeant Cody Becker, Detective Mark Baker, and Detective Isaiah Emmenheiser were killed when the suspect opened fire as they entered a residence. I mean, I don't know if that's considered a mass shooting. I mean, let me make sure I know what I'm talking about.
So how many people need to die for it to be a mass shooting?
Shooting definition, because I feel like when you're in a shootout with the police, it's a bit different. An attack, okay, it's literally an attack in which multiple people are shot over a short period of time. So I guess, yes, this would technically fall under that definition. I feel like usually when people refer to it, it doesn't involve like police shootouts, but I digress. I mean, this is still terrible, but yeah, anyway. I mean, if we want to talk about who has more violent encounters with the police though, you know.
Matthew Ruth.
Yeah, okay. So why is it that black people have more violent encounters with the police? Well, it's because black people are being over-policed. And there's a very easy way to prove this to you. What do I mean by that? Well, let me help you first understand the concept of being over-policed. Also, this will simultaneously debunk the argument you're making that uses arrest data to assert which community commits more crime. Let's say you have two stores, right? You have store A and you have store B. And in store A, you have one security guard, no cameras. In store B, you have 10 security guards with cameras in every aisle. In store B, shoplifters are obviously going to be caught a lot more. Why? Because there are more people that are observing, that are watching, that are patrolling. If you steal something in store A and you don't get caught, was a crime still committed? Obviously, the answer is yes. And so we can't look at arrest data and determine which community commits more crime when you don't have the same level of policing in both communities. Think of every time you've ever sped in your car and you weren't caught by a police officer. Every time you've ever smoked weed in a state that weed is illegal. Every time you've ever done anything illegal that you weren't caught for. None of that data gets accounted for in these statistics that you're relying on to come to a conclusion in regards to which community is committing more crime. And so if your community is over police, meaning if one community has a much larger police presence per capita, since you love that term, than the other, then obviously you're not going to have a clear and honest understanding of the rate of crime that's actually being committed. Let's just take the murder rate, for instance, right? Let's take a look at the missing persons list and see all of the people on the missing persons list. Of course, the majority of them are white. Well, how many of these people do you think are dead? How many of these people do you think have been killed? I'm sure quite a lot of them. However, they cannot be declared dead or the victim of a homicide if there is no body that is found. So you see how this argument just completely falls apart using these statistics of arrest data to come to a conclusion in regards to who's really committing how much of whatever crime. So now that we understand that, let me prove to you that black communities are far more policed than white communities. So first, let's take a look at a Stanford study which took into account over 100 million traffic stops, right? Black drivers are 20% more likely to be stopped than white drivers. Once stopped, black drivers are searched about twice as often, despite white drivers being more likely to be found with contraband. Look at that, per capita. White people are more likely to be found with contraband, but yet black people are 20% more likely to be searched. Another study conducted in 2016 by Harvard reveals this. Black people are more likely than white people to experience non-lethal force, pushes, shoves, handcuffing, drawing weapons in similar policing encounters, even after controlling for neighborhood crime rates, reason for stop, officer characteristics, and time of day. So with those factors being equal between white people and black people still are more likely to be physically harassed by the police. Can you see how a police officer shoving you, pushing you around, drawing their weapons on you will make it more likely for you to respond with aggression? And so when you have the police officers being more gentle with white people, well, it makes perfect sense why you see less violent encounters per capita between white people and police officers. Police officers are just dicks to black people for no reason. Researchers using dispatch and patrol data find predominantly black neighborhoods often have more patrol units, shorter loop cycles, and more proactive stops, even after adjusting for 911 call volume, violent crime rates, and population density. So the data is clear: when all else is equal, black people are harassed, patrolled, stopped by the police far more often than white people. Until we see an equal amount of policing done for the white community as for the black communities, you cannot make an honest assertion that black people have more violent interactions with the police per capita because they're more violent. It's not justified. You have to leave room for the possibility that if white people were policed at the same rate as black people and also were harassed at the same rate, that is, we see the use of non-lethal force at the same rate as black people, that the numbers would actually look far more similar. Maybe even you would come to realize that white people would end up having more violent interactions with the police. Unfortunately, we don't know. You see, this is why you should actually be an advocate for equality, because until we start seeing things like the judicial system and the legal system treating white people and black people the same, you can't really come to any conclusions about whether or not there's a problem with the way the law is being enforced versus there is a problem with the community that is being policed. And it doesn't stop there. An easy way to know that black people are over policed when compared to white people is when we take a look at the data in regards to people who are in prison for drug-related offenses. So when we take a look at drug use for people above the age of 12, this is data pooled between 2021 and 2023. Of white people above the age of 12, 24.1% of them reported using marijuana. Almost a quarter of the population, right? So about 1 in 4 white people above the age of 12 in America have used marijuana. Only 23.4% of black people have reported using marijuana in the same time with the same demographics. Let's look at some other drugs. When we take a look at opioid misuse, we see 3.3% for white people, 3.9% for black people. When we see cocaine or meth use, we see 4.3% for white people and 2.4% for black people. So per capita, sir, white people actually use drugs, illegal drugs, illicit drugs. We know marijuana isn't illegal everywhere, but it is still considered illegal on the federal level. White people use drugs more than black people. That's just a fact. That's what it is. Not significantly more, though, which should be noted, right? It's about the same. If we know that white people and black people basically use drugs at the exact same rate, and we know that 60% of the population is white people, and we know 13% of the population is black people, well, then that would mean we should see about 60% of the people in prison for drug-related offenses should be white, and about 13% of that should be black. Because according to the data, we are using drugs at pretty much the same rate. But when we actually take a look at the data, what do we see? So when we take a look at the federal drug trafficking offenders sentenced in 2024 by race, this is coming from the U.S. Sentencing Commission, what do we see? Only 23% of people in federal prison for drug trafficking offenses are white, whereas 28% are black. We see Hispanics make up 44%, and that's interesting. But the point I'm making here is this doesn't make any sense. White people and black people use drugs at the same rate. White people buy drugs from white people. White people buy drugs from white drug dealers. Black people buy drugs from black drug dealers. Just like how most white crime is committed by white people. White victims of crime are victimized by white people, and black victims of crime are victimized by mostly black people. Yes, we all know, right? In college, you might have known that one black dude who could sell you some weed, right? I've bought weed from a white person before in college. We know that happens, but if we're talking at scale here, it's safe to presume that the majority of white people who are purchasing drugs are purchasing them from white people, and the same for blacks. And so if there are more white people and blacks and whites use drugs at the same rate, at the very least, we should see more white people in federal prison for drug trafficking offenses. But more than that, we should see something akin to 4 to 5 times the amount of white people in prison for drug trafficking offenses. if all the numbers, you know, just keeping consistent with all the numbers and the statistics. So this is a very clear way. And we see similar data if we take a look at individual state prisons as well. So combine this evidence with the studies that are produced by Ivy League universities like Harvard and Stanford that we looked at earlier. Black people are far more policed and treated far more harshly by the police and the judicial system than white people. And so that, sir, is the reason why you see more per capita, more violent interactions between black people and police than white people and the police per capita.
He killed
likelihood
3 police officers and injured 2 in Pennsylvania. September 20th, Hunter Nador shoots up a country club, killing 1 and injuring more. September 24th, Joshua John shoots up
Is this guy even white?
a Dallas ICE immigration.
Yes, now he don't even want to claim that this guy is white. What's his name?
September 24th, Joshua John shoots up
Joshua John. What do you think? He's Mexican? He's white, guy. He's white, obviously. He looks like he could be your fucking cousin if we're going to be honest, dude. Just look at you guys. Y'all have the same fucking haircut, the same nose, the same skin complexion. Is like, is he even white? What do you think he is, huh? Chinese? But you see how uncomfortable these guys get when they have to face reality.
This guy even white?
a Dallas ICE immigration
Looks
center,
Mexican.
killing 1 and injuring 2. September 27th, a former Marine,
But regardless, right, we can talk about all these individually and talk about how bad they are and whatever. But this is the same thing he did at the beginning, where you're just cherry picking stuff, right? Like, again, I could do the same exact thing where I just point to instances of black people committing crime and then say,
That is what you do to justify black fatigue.
yeah, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. I mean, if anything, I would be more correctly, because me cherry picking is still more accurate to the actual statistics. But the problem,
No, it's not. Again, when you okay, we'll let him go. But again, he keeps on leaning on this data that is taking into account black on black violence. I've already shown you that the grand majority of white people that are killed and victimized, over 80%, by the way, you guys are your own problem. You're your own biggest problem when it comes to violence. Okay.
is that what you're doing is you're saying that because this is happening, that it must be a bigger issue, that, you know, the crime that white people are committing must be more frequent and a bigger issue, when that just simply isn't true. Well, actually,
it is true for white people. Again, why do you care? Why do you care about black on black violence? Why do you care about murders that are happening in Jackson, Mississippi? Why do you care about that? No white people are being harmed there, right? The grand majority of the victims are black. And even if you want to care about it from a point of view of like, oh, you actually care about people losing their lives, it doesn't justify the term black fatigue. It's not affecting your community.
The frequency part is true, but the likelihood, I think, is what I care about more. Because when you meet an individual and you can determine that because of their membership in a certain group, they're more likely to do something, I think that data is more valuable than just being like, well, yeah, I mean, because their group is the highest, like they're the highest population in the country, that because, you know, their population is that, there's more of everything, but like their group is more responsible for everything, you know?
Nigel Edge kills 3 people and injures 8 at a waterfront bar in North Carolina. In September 28th, another veteran, Thomas Sanford, rams his truck into a Michigan church, puts it on fire, kills 4 people, and injures 8. None of them were black, a Muslim, an immigrant, all...
This guy picked out 8 white people and then said they're all white. Like, are you fucking kidding me? He's like, yeah, out of the 8 white people I picked out, none of them were black. It's because you didn't pick out any black people. What are you doing? Who believes this shit? How does this have likes? This has 12,000 likes. This is insane. Yeah, out of the 8 people that I picked for an example, in the example that I picked, none of them were black.
Again, let's revisit the data. Over 80% of school shootings with 4 or more victims that die are they're committed by white people. This is the data. 80%, over 80%. So yeah, no one's saying that black people never commit school shootings and black people never commit mass shootings, but the grand majority of them are committed by white people. But let's see if he provides even a shred of data. I think I've laid out my case very well with this video so far, completely refuting this guy's argument and proven that it is racist for him to be making these black fatigue videos because it's not based on any data or statistics. Let's see if he provides any evidence, even a shred of data, that proves that white men or white people are victimized by black people at an abnormal rate, right? At a rate that justifies this idea of black fatigue. Let's see if, let's let the rest of the video run and see if we can find a single instance of that.
What?
White men. Now let's put violence to the side. They also,
if we talk about the violence that happened in general, then the statistics would reflect in the headlines, and you would see that out of the people that you didn't pick, more of them happen to be black.
have a problem with little kids. Man convicted of one in the team multiple times after giving her alcohol and drugs. Man,
Okay, I can't watch this anymore. He's gonna keep doing
Of course you can't watch it because you don't like reality. You can't look in the mirror. It's sad.
the cherry picking stuff that we've seen him do this entire time. So we have to reference the actual data, and then I got bad news. I have the FBI statistics pulled up on my second monitor here. So if you're like, source, it's the fucking FBI. Let's take a look at this, guys. Approximately 1% of black men in the US are registered sex offenders, with black Americans entering the sex offender registry at nearly twice the rate of white Americans. 501 per 100,000, that's blacks, adults versus 238 per 100,000, that's white. So nearly double per capita.
sent to prison for
Again, we've already explained how arrest data does not give an accurate reflection of who's actually committed how much of the crime. Until we see equal policing of the white and black community, that really doesn't mean anything. But the important thing here is white people. I want to hear you justify black fatigue. I want to hear you justify that the white community is being victimized by black people at a rate that justifies this concept of black fatigue.
So let's say that if there was the same amount of black people as white people in the country, you would see, let's say that there were like 2 million black people in the country versus 2 million white people in the country. Let me just do some math real quick here. Hold on. I'm not good at math, but it would be double the rate still, and you'd see a lot more black people. Like the stereotype would go away instantly because the frequency would match the rate.
wedding 6-month-old baby. Army kept him facing more than 40 charges of sexual battery on a child, manufacturing child, you know what. All of these happened in September, and these are just a few examples. I could go on and on. And you know the crazy thing about all of this is that there is literally no outrage going on about these events.
Again, he's completely right. Notice how he's silent there. According to the U.S. Sentencing Commission, 74.6% of people who have been convicted of the crime related to the production of child pornography is white. But when it comes to the possession or receipt of child pornography, in regards to a federal offense, over 86% of the people who are caught with this kind of disgusting, this filth are white. However, when it comes to the possession of this kind of filth, only 4% of the people are black. So how about you extrapolate those numbers, right? What does that reveal to you, sir? You see, he didn't want to look up that data, right? He didn't want to look up that data at all. And, I think this is far more telling than when it comes to, what was the statistic that he just mentioned? Sexual assault. You see, when you just look at sexual assault, right, in the broader sense, sexual abuse offenders, we got 57.5% are white, 16.1% are black, right? Which is actually a lot closer to each group's population size. But why I argue that this data is less reflective of the actual rate that the crimes are being committed is because this depends so much on victims coming forward. And so when you are, a 16-year-old white girl living out in the rural parts of Kentucky or Arkansas, you get touched by your uncle, the chances of that person coming forward, slim to none. So much, and I'm not saying that's exclusive to the white community. I am sure that many sexual assault cases go unheard because the victims don't come forward in all communities, black, Hispanic, white, and all of them. But when it comes to when the FBI catches people who are consuming child pornography, they don't know the race of the guy until they break down that door, right? Until they have tracked the person who is consuming this filth and producing this filth. To the FBI, they're just an IP address, right? Until they're ready to actually crack down on the person and make an arrest. And what do we see? The grand majority of the time, the offender is white. Like, the police isn't hunting rapists, for instance, right? A rape victim has to come to the police and accuse somebody. But when it comes to things like child pornography, the police are actively hunting down these predators. And what do we find? Who is the perpetrator of these crimes the grand majority of the time? White people. But at the end of the day, this is not a video about who commits more crime. This is a video about why this idea of black fatigue that you're pushing is racist, because the entire argument hinges on the idea that there are white people who are being victimized at an abnormal and alarming rate by black people. And the data doesn't show that, and you still are yet to produce a single piece of evidence to prove this statement.
You see, when a white person commits a crime, they are so quick to put them in a subgroup. It's either they're a liberal, a Republican, transgender, or mental problems. But guess what? When a black person commits a crime, it's, oh, black fatigue, all of y'all are bad. So it's on.
Well, I think the issue is that it's not just when one black person commits a crime, it's when there's a repeat pattern of behavior that is definitely out of proportion with the size of the group. I also do think when a lot of people are discussing—
You have not shown that as of yet, sir. You have not shown that as of yet.
Black fatigue, it's not just specifically with crime statistics. It's usually with like obnoxious behavior and like, you know, things like being impolite when you're in public that are documented on film, right? Like, oh, or like bad parenting, right? Like when it'll be like a black lady at a store and she's getting a bunch of junk food from the freezer, paying for it with like food stamps, and then feeding this fucking goy slop to her kids. Like, that's literally what people are saying. Like, that's not good.
Only fair that I treat y'all.
Yeah, but white people are guilty of the exact same thing, right? Most of the people who are recipients of food stamps are white, right? The largest group of SNAP benefit recipients, food stamp recipients, are white. Now, sure, per capita, but the point is, we can find there. If the idea here is, oh, well, it's YouTube videos. I'm seeing videos of black people behaving this way. Statistically, fuck per capita. Ask yourself, why don't you just see volume-wise more videos of white people doing this? Because even if you want to make the argument that per capita white people do it less, still, just because there's so many more white people, you should see more videos like that. And that alone would offset this idea of, oh, I'm being inundated by examples of black people doing it. Why? Because for every time you see a black person do it, you should see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 white people doing it just by sheer numbers. But you don't see that. It does feel like it's really only black people that you see on your timeline behaving like that, when the numbers don't add up. What does that tell you? It tells you that there is an active propaganda campaign to paint black people in a certain light. If you look across the board at literally every single crime that is committed, whether it's rape, murder, drug use, just sheer numbers alone, you would see more white offenders. But yet, doesn't it feel like every time you see a news article or a news segment or a video going viral on Twitter, doesn't it feel like most of the time it's black people? But that doesn't make sense from a sheer numbers point of view.
So I don't think that it's just the crime statistics, but definitely with, the death.
And is your argument that white people aren't rude? Are you trying to tell me you've never interacted with a rude white person? Are you trying to tell me that you don't know white people that spank their children, that hit their kids? Are you trying? What exactly is the argument that you're making here? I'll tell you, there is no argument to be made here. And so here, let me close with breaking down this whole per capita argument for violent crimes, right? And to show you exactly why he doesn't make, if you go through the rest of the video, you can watch he doesn't a single time provide a piece of evidence that supports this claim. Listen, he says you're justified to be wary of the black man because the data tells us that black people are more violent per capita, right? Now it's time to put to bed this per capita argument. I'm going to show you why it doesn't make any fucking sense to use this per capita argument to justify being racist against black people because black people are so defensively racist, which is something that he actually says in this video, that you're justified in being defensively racist, meaning presuming that all black people are dangerous until proven otherwise because the data, it just screams black man dangerous, right? So I asked ChatGPT, what is the murder rate of the entire country? It's 5.9 murders per 100,000 people. I then asked it, well, really, I asked it first, what is the murder rate of the state with the highest murder rate per capita? The state that holds that crown is Mississippi with 20.7 murders per 100,000 residents, right? Now, look at what happens when we remove Mississippi from the data pool. When we remove Mississippi from the data pool, it drops down from 5.9 to 5.7. Very significant. That such a small portion of the entire American population carries that much weight. But it gets even more interesting. If we actually remove the 10 deadliest states to live in America, the murder rate drops down all the way to 4.42. A very significant drop. This is like 20%. A 20% reduction right there, right? Of these 10 states with the highest murder rates, how many of them do you think fall in the top 10 states with the highest black population? This is going to blow your fucking mind. Here are the 10 states with the most black people, meaning if you want to see a lot of black people, move to one of these states. We have Texas at number 1, Florida, Georgia, New York, California, North Carolina, Maryland, Illinois, Virginia, and Ohio. Now, based on this guy's hypothesis of black men equal bad, black men equal violence, how many of these states do you think will appear on the top 10 deadliest states to live in America per capita? These are the states with the most black people. 2. Illinois and Maryland. Illinois and Maryland, which are at the very bottom of the 10 deadliest states to live in. Illinois and Maryland. All the rest, the deadliest state to live in, Mississippi, followed by Louisiana, Alabama, Missouri, South Carolina, Arkansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Maryland, and New Mexico. Only 2 of these states in the top 10 deadliest states in America are aligned with the top 10 states that black people live in. You would think that if black people are so violent and we are basically carrying the murder rate on our fucking backs per capita, that you would see more overlap between the deadliest states and the states with the most black people, but that's not what you see. All of these states, well, of course, every state is majority white because they're 60% of the population, but all of these states are not just majority white, they're really white. These are red states. This is all Trump country. This is all fucking, you know what I'm saying? These are the states where you're going to see Confederate flags flying in people's yards. Now, I'm not saying that black people aren't contributing significantly to these the violence that's occurring in these top 10 deadliest states, but is it just all black people in these states? No. Let's take a look at Mississippi. In the state of Mississippi, right, Jackson, the city of Jackson, is the deadliest city in all of Mississippi. In fact, they have a per capita rate of 92.1 per 100,000 people. Do you remember what the murder rate was for the entire country? A little bit over 5 per 100,000 people. And so what we're realizing here is that this violence is very concentrated to very small areas of the country, very small areas of even these states that are regarded as violent and deadly. A report by the Mississippi Urban Research Center states that Jackson contributed to over half of all the murders committed in the state. And so what does this mean? it means that if you remove Jackson from Mississippi, then all of a sudden the murder rate drops astronomically. But what percentage of the black population lives in Jackson? That population of black people only accounts for 0.25% of all the black people in America, right? And in Jackson, in the year of 2024, how many murders do you think happened? There are, in the city of Jackson, right, 121,000, call it 122,000 black people. How many murders do you think happened in 2024? In 2024, 111 homicides. Now, that's a lot, 111 people that lost their lives. That's horrible. That's sad. But that's 111 people killed in Jackson, which I'm sure almost all of them are black, right? So again, where is the white fatigue? It doesn't exist. But that's out of 122,000 people. 111 people lost their lives, far less than 1% of the population, and they're all mostly black. And so let's say for each death, there's one killer, which more than likely isn't the case, right? More than likely you have situations where multiple people are being killed by one guy. You are trying to justify the idea of broad brushing 40 million people, 40 plus million people, because of the actions of a few hundred people. We're talking about a fraction of a percentage here. So if you're a white person living in San Diego, if you're a white person living, well, it really doesn't matter where you live because the data is clear. 80% of white victims of murder are killed by white people. So it doesn't matter where you are in this country. More than likely, if you're a white man and you're ever murdered, the guy who kills you is going to be white. That's just what the numbers tell us. But let's say you're trying to be careful of the kind of black people you surround yourself. But yeah, if you find yourself walking down the streets of Jackson, Mississippi, I would tell you to watch your fucking back. Regardless of your race. Yeah, it's a dangerous city. But even then, you still would be paranoid to think that around every corner, every time you see a black person, there's somebody, they're going to kill you. Because less than a fraction of a percentage of the black people who live in these violent cities are the ones actually committing the crimes. And so with that, how are you justifying this idea of black fatigue? Where's the numbers? Where's the actual data that makes it make sense? It doesn't. And that's why if you're a white person, especially if you're a white person who doesn't live in one of these deadliest cities in America with a high black population that has a large gang violence presence, what exactly are you using to justify this idea that you're tired, that you're fatigued? Black fatigue, as used by yourself, Acheeto guy, and all these other white people making videos and people like Nick Fuentes, it is nothing more than a racist dog whistle that is not based in reality and is not derived from data, statistics, or facts. And that's the reality of it. But you let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching. And until next time, peace out.